Mark, thanks very much for being with me. Now, you've been working on a big report, the roadmap to the internationalization of the yuan. Can you walk me through the key steps that really need to happen? We all know it's coming, but what needs to be done?
I think the key steps are there's about 5, really. We still need to grow the deposit base of renminbi outside of China. Trade paid for in renminbi needs to continue to develop. I mean, over the last 2 or 3 years, there's been an explosion of trade in renminbi, and companies are getting more willing to take renminbi as the currency for trade with China. But that needs to continue to grow to make the currency held more outside of China. I mean, the other thing is investment products. So once you have this money outside of China, we've had the dim sum bond market here develop, but that needs to continue to develop around the world. It's still very small relative to the onshore market, and certainly tiny compared to the US dollar market. So products like ETFs, et cetera, need to continue to grow. The fourth thing is the central bank's bilateral swaps agreements. There's been about 24 signed. Those need to continue to, China needs to continue to sign them with more central banks, as well as increase the size of the ones that they already have, because the central banks operate as a backstop for liquidity in currencies, including the renminbi outside. And the final thing, I think, is that it really needs to become a reserve currency. And when you get all those 4 things that I've mentioned before, the opportunity for central banks and others to really hold that currency, the renminbi, outside of China will increase substantially, and that will ultimately lead it to being a reserve currency like the dollar, like the euro, like the yen.
Well, at least we're under 10 in terms of the big steps that need to be taken, but that's a pretty sizable list. Which of those 5 do you see flashing captions like this is going to be difficult and it's not going so smoothly?
Yeah. Well, I think actually it is all going fairly smoothly when you consider the mammoth size of the task of what they're trying to do, and you consider where they've come from, even in 3 or 4 years. But I think the difficult one is around investment, both onshore and offshore. You have to create a lot of different products and a lot of investment opportunities for individuals, and you need to get those flows going back and forth. It can't just be separate flows offshore and separate flows onshore. So the increased use of quotas around Q fees, RQ fees, etc., that people have talked about is really, really important. The use of things such as the through train, the connect between Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Hong Kong will really help facilitate those kind of things. We're expecting something around mutual recognition probably this year between Hong Kong and China, where funds will be mutually recognized between the 2 countries. That again will get those flows going. But that is really the big challenge, is developing that robust capital market, both onshore in China and offshore.
Do you think there's anything out there that can mess it up, or is it just happening so put together as a package now that really it's inevitable?
Yeah. Well, we think it's inevitable. I think the real question is the speed and how quickly they move with the size of what they want to do. Right now, they've taken a very steady and slow approach, and that's certainly something that we recommend. And you've seen that how they built up the deposits outside of China, how they slowly built the dim sum market, etc. So that speed is the right way to go. And I think as long as growth is around 7.5% in China, they can continue to do that. If it starts dipping, then they're going to probably have to move faster. And I think if they don't move faster because of vested interests, that's when I think things will get difficult. Ultimately, they're going to have to do it because if you look at, they've been an investment-dominated economy, but now for every 3 renminbi that they put in, they get 1 renminbi in growth. A few years ago, that was 1 to 1 almost. So that investment-led economy model is dead, really. So they need to move to something different.